Hey, Chris and Drew, welcome to another episode of the Vibe Sesh Podcast. We're really stoked to have you guys on here, both as artists and legends behind one of the most charitable events, I think, in our scene, Michigan Glass Project. So thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to join us on the podcast today.
Yeah, it's an honor to be
Hell
here.
yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
So we wanted to take the start of this to really dive into you guys both as individual artists and, how did you both get your start on the torch? Chris, we can start with you. If you can introduce yourself, your Instagram handle, and, a little bit of background about how'd you get into glass blowing? How'd you get into the industry?
Cool. Yeah, my name's Christian. I go by 313 Glass on Instagram. And, I first got my start, years ago. I saw the legendary documentary Degenerate Art back when it was on Netflix. That was like when I was still just a kid, like in high school, and like that shit blew my mind. I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And from then on, like the next few years, it just stewed about in my brain. And then by the time I had graduated, I basically just like bought myself a torch and set up in my folks' garage and started messing around,
So are you
learning off of
smoking?
like YouTube videos and all that.
You were smoking in high school, obviously. When did you start smoking?
Yeah. Too young. I don't know. I was probably like 14, I think. I was like a freshman in high school. Yeah.
Were you using
So,
glass pieces then? Like, did you have any connection to glass art in high school, or were you just doing spliffs and blunts? Or
yeah, definitely. Like, I always loved my little dry pipes, like spoons and stuff. And like, that was like one of the things when I watched that movie, I was like, holy shit, like some dude made this thing. Like, it's not like some robot in a factory, like some human person made this thing that I'm using every single day. And like, that was just so cool to me.
Yeah, it's sick to make that association for sure.
were you
Yeah,
going
definitely.
were you buying headies at that point, or is it just more like smoke shop
No.
pieces?
I mean, I had a couple pieces that were like kind of cool, but like nothing like headies, There was like, I won't name any names, but there was like one head shop locally that would like never card you. And like, that was like where we would all go when we were young,
Sick.
like and peruse their selection. So yeah, that was always like so exciting. Like, you try and like go into like the other head shops and they'd kick you out. And then like,
This is the
you
go-to
get to the
spot.
one and like, they don't ask you. You're like, yes.
Thank God, dude. I can get a pipe
In.
today. Like, let's
Yeah.
go.
And how did that
Yeah.
first couple years of transition from you being, a user of glass pipes to a maker of glass pipes work out for you? What were the first couple years on the torch like for you?
Oh, it's rough, it's hard. It's not easy to learn, especially like when you're solo, just like trying to figure it out off of like YouTube videos and stuff. So first, I don't know, I'd say like 6 or 7 months, I was just completely by myself. And then randomly I had a homie, well, now a homie, but like a random person hit me up on Instagram. That was my buddy Job, JL Glassworks. And he was asking for lessons. And I was like, dude, I don't know fucking anything.
Yeah, I don't know what
but
the hell
like,
I'm doing
come
myself,
kick it.
bro. I can't give you lessons. Like, who am I?
So I was like, come through, like, let's hang out. And then so that's how I met him. And then eventually hanging out with him, we started working up in a studio in Flint with this dude, Dan Cooper. We worked up there for a while. And through that, I don't know if it was like on the forums, the Melting Pot forums or what, but Job had learned about Drew and the dudes down at the Urban Pheasant and like their old timey Fridays. And eventually we started going down there, kicking it with those guys. And like, that was when it really like
Started to take off.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Cause that was when we like really started to have some like good influence of like dudes who like actually knew what they were doing, like just kicking it, watching Drew and Jay Ross and Blade and all those guys that were working in the studio at the time.
So give us a rough year. When are we talking?
Yeah.
So I started like when I first got my torch, that was 2014. And then by like 2015 is when we were like up in Flint. And then towards the end of that year is probably like when I first had come to the studio in Detroit, the Urban Pheasant, and like was kicking it with these guys and like getting in their good graces for the first time.
By the time you were there, could you find yourself making anything, or were you guys just still fucking around on the torch?
Oh, no, for sure. Like by that time, like we were making like all sorts of different stuff, like little mini rigs and pipes, and I mean nothing that I would consider to be like good by
Sure.
my standards currently, but like I was definitely like
Stoked on it.
stoked with what I was doing at that time, you know?
That's fucking
Like,
awesome. That's what it's all about. You
Yeah.
know, if you're putting out something, especially as an artist, you're putting out something that you could be so excited about and stand behind, and you could put your passion into it. I think that's when guys really find their groove. And it sounds like, you know, you found your groove, right place, right time, right people, meeting Drew. So that's pretty exciting.
absolutely.
And
So
what was your guys'
Absolutely.
like major outlet for that work? Were you guys selling to like head shops, or were you going around to shows or anything like that?
Yeah, like back in those days, you know, the biggest thing we sold was just like production pipes, and me and another homie, Dallas D Biz, we would basically just like load up a rifle case with like 100 spoons and like drive around to like every head shop in the area and just be like, hey, you want to buy some glass?
that's it, man. It's
And,
just
Yeah,
straight hustle.
yeah, for sure. It was fun times doing that shit for sure. So yeah, that was like our biggest outlet, and I mean, eventually started selling more stuff through like Instagram and all that. But definitely when we started, it was just like putting our stuff out to shops and that kind of thing.
Hitting the road.
Yeah, I
doing
feel like
it.
IG was
Yeah.
still pretty early on back then. Even
Yeah,
I
super
don't know
nascent.
if
Yeah,
anyone was
it was
really
a lot easier to
monetizing
work
off it.
the social media hustle
Yeah.
back in those days for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how far that's come.
So I think
Definitely.
this is a pretty good time for us to transition over to Drew. So you met him 2013, 2014 when you went over to his shop. Let's rewind with you, Drew. When did you first get on the torch, and what was your story, I guess, coming into that whole backside before you met Chris in 2014?
So I started blowing glass in 1997 in Eugene, Oregon. I'd been living out in Eugene for a couple of years, and I'd first seen glass through my friend Doug Zolbert, who later became a glass blower as well. And we kind of started our journey in glass together. You know, seeing Bob Snodgrass on the Grateful Dead lot was like really my secondary kind of introduction to glass, right? I always like to bring up that glass pipes come from the Grateful Dead lot, that culture of like making and Americana, and just
Definitely.
like touring and making a living on the road, and that gypsy lifestyle, that freedom. I think that's really at the core of attraction and love for glass blowing that a lot of guys have.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the first glass piece, heady kind of piece I ever saw was a Chillum that a local artist had made. I'm forgetting his name. I had it on the tip of my tongue earlier.
And this is from the lot?
Yeah, this is in Lansing in like 1992 or 3, probably 92. And like the summer of 92 was my first Grateful Dead show. So that was my introduction into glass, you know. Fast forward to moving to Eugene, and this guy, Freeman Corbin, and Justin Burnett moved into our house. And they were neighbors who had a glass studio in one of the bedrooms, and they set a shop up in our basement. And there was like a rotation of maybe 15 or 20 guys that come over the house, blow
Wow.
glass, and we had 4 torches set up in this basement.
Did you guys know what you were doing at all, or was it just throwing paint at a wall?
Well, they knew what they were doing. They were very skilled. I would say they were some of the first heady artists out there. They were doing like reversals and inside
Sick.
out and fume work and like all these like way crazy tricks for like 1995, 6,
Yeah,
right? Like,
super fun.
yeah. Unfortunately, they weren't. Unfortunately, we parted ways, and they ended up moving out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't allow us to blow glass in the basement. So we immediately set up torches and started learning how, you know, just by talking to guys in the street at the Saturday market. Doug worked at a studio and a head shop. It was a sweet potato pie at Jock Creations with Chris Shave.
Are we still in the late 90s right now?
Yeah, we're in like mid 90s, like 96. I would say.
And
It's
how
96.
prevalent is glass blowing in Eugene? Is everyone glass blowing? Does everyone know of Bob back then? How
No.
was What was the vibe?
It was really secretive, right?
Yeah.
There were stories of guys who were blowing glass with a curtain around them so that their shop mates couldn't see what they were doing, right? Or they would like clean off their benches entirely of any prep, or they would hide all their materials, or they're like well guarded secrets, you know. And
Yeah.
especially with fume, nobody talked about fume. Jeez and Pete, to get a glass blower to talk about fume, you were like inner circle. So being a kid and not knowing anybody and just being, you know, silly hippie, like I went over to Bob's and bought my first tools and just like pieced it all together. We made pendants, we made oneies. We go out to the walk-in mall and like trade street kids glass for nugs. You know,
Would you see
something else,
Bob
like,
at all of the shows that you would go to? Was he prevalent from your glass experience on the lot?
oh yeah, Bob would be on a Grateful Dead tour all the time. You know, you'd see him out. I
Of
mean,
course.
I didn't see Bob on the lot like I mean, I would see Bob in the lot at any Grateful Dead related show on the
Right.
West Coast.
Right.
Where was my thought at? Oh, so Eugene, 1997. We bought torches, started to blow glass, and you know, it just rolled from there. We would use Eugene as our central base, and we'd hop in cars and go up and down the West Coast and sell pieces at shows. You know, that's kind of how it all got started for me.
That's
And
sick.
would you do pipes, spoons, oneies, any marbles back then? And would you have a Grateful Dead theme as well with the skulls, or did you have your own path?
No, I was just like making production looking stuff, you know, like inside out line work, like really primitive reversals, really primitive, you know, exterior fume, lumpy, you know, wonky, big bowl holes, odd carbs, odd misshapen pieces that have very little aesthetic, you know, like the pipes weren't refined. They're like wooden spoons, you know. They're just
They
like
worked.
Yeah.
They got the job done.
Worky, yeah. Who would you say your biggest inspirations were back then at that time?
Man, it was really hard to come across other glass blowers. Like I met Bob Badtram playing pool one time, and he showed me a marble with an earth and a moon in it, and the moon would cast an eclipse on the earth, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
That's so sick.
That is sick.
You know, Brian Padilla and his sister Yvonne, as far as fume goes, they are some of the history's greatest fumers,
Ever.
and their pattern work really inspired me.
Yeah, YP is an absolute legend. When you talk to a lot of people that are really hip to the 90s glass, YP is probably one of their favorite glass blowers of the 90s. And then she took a hiatus in the early 2000s, came back briefly in the late, like, 2019 to 2020 with her brother on some collabs. But I know people are itching to get YP back on the torch. She was special.
There was another guy. He was like he was kind of a vagrant, you know, degenerate. His name was Dirthead, and
Dirthead.
His Dirthead, yeah, his style of pipes. I think Mellow Moods in Portland has a small collection of his work, but it was so organic, flowy, and just like drippy, you know, like well done, well played, like contemporary sculpture. And I traded him like a 6-pack for this piece one time, 6-pack of Olies, and I lost it. It's like one piece I wish I never lost in life, you know. It's beautiful.
What were you selling your pieces for on the lot back then?
$30. You know, same kind of prices on Proto I do now. Like I really haven't gotten crazy from like the smaller stuff. You know, $20 hollers always fixes it. Everybody's got $100, you know,
right?
$150, you know.
That's
now,
what's up.
did you ever do any of the glass blowing on the lot, or you mostly were just bringing your pipes to the lot?
Bringing the pipes to the lot. I mean, every once in a while you go to a show and run across some look. You know, there's this guy Lucky, who is a legend in the Midwest.
Let's go.
He was like a biker hippie. You know, he looked like Wrecking Crew. You know, he would make marbles and like just put them in vermiculite, you know, whatever, boom. And I always joke that his name was Lucky because he was lucky his marbles didn't blow up. But he had these like wire wrapped didymium glasses that were amazing. And he was just always a joy and a pleasure to be around. He's since passed, but we'd catch him out there at Nelson's Ledges all the time, blowing glass in public, and it's a really good memory. He's the one guy I've seen demonstrate that I give a thumbs up to.
That's
And a lot of
awesome.
times, people doing this stuff aren't the safest, and that
Yeah.
really concerns me.
Right.
Especially
Now,
back then.
we're late 90s and we're starting to transition now. How did Operation Pipe Dreams affect you? Did that have any impact on you a couple years later? And if there's anything we're missing between those years, please give us some more.
Yeah, sure. So early 2000s, I started moving to Detroit. I moved into the Russell Industrial Center with my buddy Paco, Troy Radkin, John Ennis, Omar, a handful of guys who don't blow glass anymore. And Paco had this space at the Russell that he'd use for high stakes poker games. Like he was a card shark,
Sick.
and
That's what's up.
like he was like, yeah, I got the space. It cost me like whatever, $200 a month. I'm just starting to learn how to blow glass. If you show me some things, you can blow glass here. So I start doing the thing, blowing glass at the Russell, and like that became like the fortress of solitude for me in the early 2000s. Like I've been homeless and lived at the Russell. Like no matter what the storm is, I can harbor myself there. And during Pipe Dreams, that became more important than ever. That's what really kept me in the inner city of Detroit. This giant 2.2 million square foot warehouse complex, right?
Mhm.
Because I could hide from the law. Like, nobody's going to come down to Detroit, come pull me out of a warehouse or making bongs.
Mhm.
And Ashcroft legitimately shut down a lot of our accounts at the time. So he kind of pulled the rug from underneath us, like instilled a fear of like being an artist, making something that's illegal. To me, that would always blew my mind, right? You can sell bullets and you can sell guns, but you can't sell art because of the intention. That made no sense to me.
Yeah.
So it really put fear in. A lot of people dropped out because of that, and I think it was very harmful to the scene altogether.
And so during that time, you felt the installation of your building. Where were you moving the work? I mean, you still had to support yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd hop in my car and go on fish tour. I would catch further. There was a lot of local shops that still supported us through that. Shout out to BDT for paying my bills for years and years and years. Like shout out to Ray Colville for like being a landlord and trading me glass for rent. There was
That's
always
solid.
people out there buying cases. And that was like the beginning of the internet too, which wasn't the best for selling glass, but it was really good for networking. Like Chris had mentioned, talkglass.com and the melting pot. I highly suggest to any young glass blower out there to check out GLDG. That's the most important encyclopedia of information available on borosilicate lamp working. And all of our conversations are there. You can decode who's who, like all the secrets unlocked.
Can you say that one more time?
GLEG.
GLDG. It's the Melting Pot Forum. It was run by Eugene Rain and Nisha and Murr and Doug Caroon, and they made an awesome safe space for us during those hard times during Operation Pipe Dreams, and like that was the beginning of like documentation as well. Like, just starting to document with photographs and telling our story and capturing video.
So you sold pipes on a bunch of the different lots. Just a random question here. Was any of the lots or any of the tours better at selling pipes? Like, oh, I know Grateful Dead's up. I'm going to make a lot more than if the Fish tour was coming up.
What's your go-to?
It was all pretty much jump change, at the end of the day, but you'd make like a rack or two selling spoons out there. What really determined if you made money or not was police presence. Like Cook County don't mess around. They don't mess around in Chicago. They mess around in Illinois. I had a motorcycle cop kill his engine, roll up on me on the ninja bike, and like park it, like, yo, give me the case, and like
really
all my money out of my pockets. Like you robbed me, man. And that happened a few times throughout my life, just being robbed by cops.
Wow.
You're selling glass.
I remember a story with Eric Crunk. I was with him, and he told me that in the lot, you could tell if they were a cop or not by if there were stains on the undersides of their T-shirts. Because after they hit the bowls, they would clean the bowls out with the bottom of their T-shirts, And one way to tell if you are a cop or not is you'd lift the bottom of your t-shirt up.
Yeah, they'd say lift your shirt.
And if you're trying to smoke a pipe, you just lift your shirt up. You see that it's dirty. They'd say, I'm one of you. And yeah.
Is that true from your experience? Or what was your trick?
I think it's a tell sign. I always tell a cop by his shoes. You know, he's out there in like crispy white sneakers. You know, like, oh, I might not sell him a
He's
bag.
never been there before. Yeah.
This ain't it.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you had any firsthand experience, or if you knew anyone with firsthand experience of stories like that, or having their shop raided or anything else shut down completely.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, getting shut down with pirate vending was
Mhm.
really common. Really common. You know, most times, you know, vending coordinators are really nice, but you know, if you steal their golf cart or something, they're going to throw you out.
Of course.
But yeah, I would say I had my cases of glass taken by police in several states over the years. You know, thank you, Ohio, Geauga County. You know, you got some.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania was a bad place to get caught up in.
Definitely West PA, especially. I
Yeah,
just
you know-
driving through there.
You're just like, fuck that, man. Anyhow, so
Even still today, honestly, I know a couple homies who have had pipes taken over some road incidents or whatever. You know, it's always a
I think
shame.
they're still legal in Iowa too, or recently they were decriminalized. For a long time, Iowa was like a no send to state.
Yeah, that's wild.
as you're coming out of pipe dreams, how did you start to feel that the world was kind of okay again? Was it a pickup in orders? Was it more shops popping up? Or, what caused you to kind of come out of that hiding space in that huge warehouse in the middle of Detroit?
Yeah, black market marijuana, right? Medicinal hit, Michigan. You can caregive and grow 72 plants by stacking cards. And people were like getting 20 waters and going ham. And then
They're just running it up, baby.
Like
Absolutely.
And then they started, and then like 2011 is like when kind of BHO kind of came into our circles, 2010. And then, then the rigs start to get valuable. And those were the fat times. That was the good times, If you were clever, you could make a bunch of money from glass.
So we're coming up on 2012, 2013, getting really close now to the time that you met Chris. What were you doing at the studio right up before then? Obviously, you're making rigs, you're making pipes. It was the heyday. What did you think of these new guys kind of coming in when you first met them?
From day one, I've always felt like that young artists should be supported by the older artists, like the each one teach one philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even necessarily teaching them vocational skills, like the actual blowing with glass, but like how to posse up, how to rage, how to hustle, like how to love one another like family. I think that was something like we've always tried to do from the conception of Urban Pheasant in like, the early 2000s. It was always a collective studio. So we all split the bills evenly. And we all kind of support one another. Like it's like a network home ground. And like around 2010, 11 is like when Blade was doing the Colorado projects, and I made my way out there, and we started like thinking about doing more events. We were like going to parties and doing the thing, and like every once in a while we would have a party or do a gallery show.
Mm-hmm.
But like going to the Colorado project and seeing them do a thing and then write a check and like
what
really
was it? Similar concepts? What was the Colorado project?
Yeah, what was the setup of that event?
That was at the Shack Mansion, and that was put together by Adam Graffis and Corin Winters and Studio Anonymous Blade, and their goal was to write a check to a food bank in their community, and they brought out all the ballers, like and by their second or third event, it was stacked. It was so stacked. It was ridiculous.
Nice. So that gave you guys some inspiration.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I came out of there after the first one. And I was like, damn, we should do this in Detroit, right? Like we have a large studio. We have a lot of friends who blow glass. We're all really tight, so bring us together. And we like to party, And I always like to say that we host better parties then we blow glass. You know, in our class ain't that bad.
Yeah, that's the fun. That's what it's all about. You know, bringing the community together and just having a good time. But more importantly, it's for a good cause too. So when you guys, it was still in its inception. When did it become reality? When did it go from idea to, you know, we can actually do this?
Yeah. And how was that first year?
So the first year, Blade sat down. He came to Urban Fest and saw what we're doing, and was like, "Hey, would you like to do this?" Like he came to us. It was like, "I'll give you the skeleton, and you guys run with it." And he handed us a choice: the red pill or the blue pill. You know,
Sick.
and and he even said that, like, this is going to change your life forever. Choose wisely. If you don't want to invest the time, don't get involved. But if I see this in you, you guys are going to do great. And he handed us all the information, and then more importantly, he introduced us to all the leaders in our industry. You know, he introduced us to Mike Seaver from Scott Kiln, Abe Fleischman from North Star.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas and Jody over at Glass Alchemy, and those were like our first sponsors that really helped us out. There was also a local head shop, 42 Degrees, that wrote us a fat check in the beginning. That really helped as well, and that's what really kickstarted us. And that first event ran parallel to a gas conference in Toledo, and you know, people from there came up, and that was our first event. It was just like we did it in 90 days. That was his trip.
That's unreal.
Like,
that's hard.
wow.
That's really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
We throw events. That's 90-day turn for an event like that. That is crazy.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And did you guys have like everything that you have incorporated now pretty much back then with the demoing, the auctions, like all the other side shows that are going on? Or like how was it that first year? Probably a lot of work in 90 days.
It was really stripped down. You know, we had this space in the Eastern Market, which is our produce terminal, and it was hot as hell. It was this weird building that had just been painted by like the Flying Fortress crew and Rhyme and Revoke and all these crazy writers. So this building was freshly painted. So we I'm not sure if we did an auction or not. I don't even know how we sold the pieces. I think we did Instagram or Facebook auctions in the beginning.
And who was on the founding team with you then? Who started it with you?
It was Allison Key, Jeremy Ross, Jesse Knott, Pete Gibbs, Chuck Gaines. I'm trying to think who else was around then. Chris, am I missing anybody?
I don't think so.
It was like the core group of us at the shop, you know.
And what year was that? That was 2015, the first one?
2011.
2011? Sweet.
Yeah.
So I've been going for a couple of years by the time that you met Chris and Chris came to your shop. So Chris, what was your experience with MGP and how did you start to get involved?
I mean, the first time I came, we had a booth. We were slanging our glass at the show. It was like when we found out about the event, we were like, oh, hell yeah, let's go and sell some shit. And, just through that and being there, attending the event, it was like, damn, this is like the coolest shit ever. Like, this is so sick. Like, I can't believe that, like, this thing that my new homies like put together is like as crazy as it is. And like I was just totally, enamored by it. And by the next event, 2016, I was like fully invested, like volunteering, hanging out at the show, doing whatever I could. And that was pretty much it. It's like hard, like once you're there, it's like hard to not want to be a part of it.
Right,
I agree.
In some way or another.
Yeah. Last year was the first year that I had actually made it out, and I had the exact same reaction. I came home and I was telling him the same thing. I thought it was cool as well. You guys had like Chris Dyer there, who was doing some painting as well. It was like kind of bringing it all the way back to year one with those graph guys painting up the whole spot. That's sick.
Yeah, we've always had the support of the graffiti community, and I feel like glass pipes and graffiti go hand in hand.
I agree. Definitely. Two like definitely ostracized communities have had, the publicity skewed against them. And I think that even in like the past 10 years, we've seen it making, waves towards like more popular culture, and people are kind of looking at it in a different light, which is nice. And especially like the charity aspect of the event that you guys have incorporated now is like awesome. Especially as like a collector and observer, it makes it even that much more better to participate in the event, when you feel like it's giving back to something else as well.
It's a beautiful thing to walk into that classroom. Or in our first year, we supported the Belle Isle Aquarium, which was completely desolate and empty except for a couple of tanks of perch. And like
Wow.
we kickstarted them, and now they're fully operational,
That's
federally
super
funded.
cool.
It's beautiful and it feels good, man. And it's not like we wear it on our coat or anything, but like to personally walk into a spot and see it in action after knowing it was so just far gone. It's
Yeah.
pretty damn cool.
Now, when did it shift from art or from animals to children in arts programs?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we donated to the Belle Isle Aquarium the first 2 years, and then Allison gave me a call. It's like, hey, we got to go meet Carol. This looks great. And we had coffee, and we met with Carol Hoffgartner from Art Road. And what they do is they bring elementary art programs to Detroit public schools by providing programming, teachers, materials. And at one point, they were in 7 schools, and thousands of kids have gotten art class because of this. And the stories that come out of it are so just heart wrenching, right? See these kids light up when they're painting, just having a great time, and it really motivates us to keep going and keep that whole ball rolling. So, hey, I think by 2014 or 15, we were donating to Art Road and brought them on board, which really kickstarted our whole mission, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
as you might inspire a whole new generation of glass artists out of that too. I know watching some of the stuff that you guys do is like amazing, inspiring. So that's pretty cool to give back like within the same circles.
I mean, I saw some of the videos too. It's just really it's heartwarming seeing the kids with the crayons, and they're getting utensils that they might not have been able to get in these stripped down art programs are now able to provide more and give these people an outlet to create. So it's really special what you guys are able to do, and it's really cool that you guys are able to see tangibly where the money's going and the impact that it's having. So it's really it's a complete program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, not only is it like the physical giving, but it's like allowing them to think outside the box and develop new thinking skills, which will eventually make some sort of other social tangible change. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the art classes that I took, when I was younger have shaped like kind of the way that I think about everything that I look at nowadays, which is like crazy. Even like 10, 15 years later, I still think back to some of the things that I learned in art classes just because like that's what had me most engaged, really. I pretty much hated all other classes.
I have a nonprofit. We teach business and life skills to children through photography in the slum areas of the world. So I understand that same impact that photography can have, sending these children out into their local communities, and they're learning a lot of soft and hard skills even by using the cameras, how to share, how to give back, how to use the computer to develop their images, how to line up an image. So
Some of the
it's
pictures
really
that come out of that are like
yeah,
ridiculous.
the
too.
model works. Like, we see it. What you guys are doing is super special. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
And similarly, you guys tend to have the artist pushing it out of the box too. We've seen some of the absolute craziest pipes ever come out of MGP. I feel like everyone goes there and knows, okay, it's MGP, I got to turn it up another notch. So what are some of your favorite pipes? Bring us back from the beginning. We don't have to do favorite pipe per year, but what are some of your favorites to come out of MGP?
Wow, there's been a lot of special guests, right? Like, first year, Ham made this piece. We had a crucible, and he took a knuckle and smashed it and made this, real crazy shape, and then welded all these very sharp, like not even ever polished chunks of crucible glass to the outside of the pipe. That was a favorite. Slinger did a Detroit Hustles Harder. It was like Strawberry Mansion, so it was it's like persimmon strike or pomegranate over a green color, and that it made like this really crazy Grawl tech. And he is a Sherlock with Detroit Hustles Harder in it. That was really amazing. Joe Comer has made some insane flips. We have this one of like an old man weed wizard on the side of this germ bubbler that's really fantastic. But the big ones, the Spectral Crystal Devi, I think is like the crown jewel of all of them. I mean, this last piece they made is fantastic. With the Nico Cray snakes. Like all the
Absolutely.
banjo devies, right?
Wild. Yeah, Banjo, we had him on a couple of episodes ago. I mean, that guy is super special in this
And these
industry.
guys are pushing it to the limit too. I know they stayed up for like 2 days straight finishing the piece last year. So it's like impressive to see, 3 or 4 guys getting down on a piece of that magnitude.
One year Banjo sent a frame to Salt to finish, and that one was pretty wild because it was like a 60-way collaborative piece, and he like kind of like Amber Cohen I call, where he just like stuck symmetrical things all over this piece, and it became like an amalgamation of the vibe, right? Like every artist in the room kind of put a piece on the thing.
It was crazy to watch Salt. He worked on that piece from like 12 noon on Sunday till like damn near 12 noon on Monday.
Yeah,
the
he
next
is
day,
a
like
monster.
straight on the torch, like going ham, and like that was awesome. I was charged with like keeping the oxygen flowing. We had ran out of our liquid tanks, and like at a certain point we were like, everybody else get off the torch, like Salt's finishing this thing.
Yeah.
And like
Let the man
don't
work.
mess
like,
around with
it was,
that.
it was
That's
awesome.
sketchy.
Let the
Just,
man
like,
work.
yeah,
Let
and
him
it
cook.
was
Let
yeah,
him
it
cook.
was bonkers. And like, I mean, by the end, like I was fucking exhausted, and I wasn't even working. I mean, I was working, but not on the torch. Like I was just awake the whole time. I don't know how this man is on 2 feet right now, like still going.
And Chris, what were
That
some of
was
your
my
favorite
feeling, too.
pipes, bro? What were some of the ones that really, blew your mind since you've been there?
Like definitely, there's a ton of stuff. I mean, but the ones that always stick out to me are like those huge collabs, like always the banjo and those pieces. Like Drew mentioned, the Spectral Crystal Devi. That was like probably the first time I'd ever watched like an insane build like that, and I spent a lot of time just sitting there watching them put pieces together and line things up, and that just really like blew my mind as to like what is possible as a glass maker, like to see how much you could put on a piece that is like crazy complex, but when you break it down to its individual components, like it's not, I don't want to say simple because it's not, but like it is, like it makes a lot more sense when you look at it that way. So like, how the hell do they make this fucking extravagant thing that has 1,000 different components going together? And that's always something that sticks out in my mind, is
Definitely
those huge builds that are
Do you find it's
so
a good
insane.
learning experience for artists to go kind of see?
Oh yeah.
Because I guess
Yeah.
guys are doing their techs pretty much out in the
Mhm.
open,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, it's like an amazing opportunity for young and old experienced artists to like come and check out how other people do their work. I mean, I've taken a good handful of classes in my day, and it's basically one huge weekend long class with 40 dudes showing off their tech all at once, and like, it's like, where do I even
go.
focus
Yeah.
to like see, like there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Could watch Banjo do some crazy construction, or like Joe Comer, watch him do some like insanely detailed flips, or watch someone crushing it on the lathe. Like there's no end to the things you can learn just by like observing, and that's always like other than just doing it yourself, that's really like so important in glasswork, is just like watching people work and like getting an idea for like how they go about doing things.
And how about someone as as someone that's a collector or someone that's just in the community, if they show up to MGP, you know, what's the experience like for them?
Oh man, I mean, it's overwhelming, you know, like same thing. Like I'm sure from like a collector standpoint, it's super cool to like get an inside view into like the behind the scenes of like how those pieces that they like love and cherish are like actually put together.
Yeah.
I'm sure it like helps put a frame of reference to like how much actually goes into those works of art. And you know, aside from that like aspect of it, it's an awesome gathering for people to get together. They get to share what they love with like-minded people, like talk with other homies, see people bring out their crazy headies
Yeah,
and like
it's sick. It's the
get to
best part, right?
Yeah.
get to experience like a huge range of things that you never would in like whatever your circle of glass homies is at home, you know.
I agree. Yeah. It's also cool that a lot of the pieces that they're working on right in front of you then go onto the auction table at the end of the event and you have the opportunity to purchase it, you know, as
So
a
is
collector.
Definitely.
every
Yeah, you
piece
could
auctioned?
sit there and watch someone put together a whole piece and then bring it home with you at the end of the event.
Yeah, which is special. I mean, I feel like a lot of guys either like don't have the time or aren't allowed the access to get into some of these like glass blowers studios or shops, and so like that's like the perfect combined opportunity, like you were saying. How many artists did you guys have last year, and then how many are you looking to line up this year for the demos, competition, etc.?
So during the event, I think we have 35 or 36 torches like set up
Yeah.
going at one time. And I
That's
think
unreal.
It's crazy.
I want to say we had around 120, 130 different artists that came out and demonstrated throughout the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So it's a ton of people. It's an insane amount of artists to have gathered in one place, like all doing the thing.
And I know you guys had it lined up with the gas conference last year. It sounds like even in year one, you guys had it kind of coordinated on the same weekend. Is that the case again this year too?
No, it's going to be in Berlin this
Okay.
year. They had it in Detroit. We moved the dates to align with it and worked with them, and that turned out really nice.
Yeah.
We had some really special guests. Like I met Lucio Babaco at the
Oh,
project. Like, are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
I actually
Dude,
talked to
same.
him on the
Yeah.
drive from Jersey. He had just done a demo with Paul Stankard in Jersey right before that. And I
Mhm.
talked to him on the phone as he was driving out there. And I was like, wow, that is so special.
Yeah,
He
I
was
thought it was
stoked.
cool too that like you had some guys from Michigan Glass Project doing demos at the Soft Glass Gas Conference, and then some of those Soft Glass guys came over to check out what was going down at MGP, which is like really cool. That like the mutual respect is like getting to that level with the shared techniques and everything that's incorporated into those events.
And for those who don't know, can you give a little quick background on what the gas conference is?
Yeah.
So it's the Glass Art Society, and they're an international organization of fine artists who host an exhibition that lasts just short of a week, and it tours from country to country, and it's really a display of some of the best work in the world, and fresh and new and inventive ideas to be shared. It's really good for the fine art and museum glass community, and any pipe maker. I would suggest go be a part of Gas and go check it out. Go to Berlin this year. They host an amazing event.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Chris, did you
They want
ever go over to gas conference at all?
You know, it's funny. They used one of our studios at the Russell to do some demonstrations, and I was so busy working at our show that I did not get like a single second to go over there and
That's
watch
okay.
any of those demos.
We get it,
I
man.
popped in for like maybe like a minute when Earl Jr. was setting up for his thing and
Sick.
said what's up and wished him
Sick.
luck. And I was like, I gotta get back to the
MGP.
venue. I got stuff to do.
I'm working.
Dude, would you guys say that this
exactly.
past year was like one of your biggest years then? And you guys even had other medias of art there as well in the shop next door. They had like a bunch of painters in there going all weekend and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yep.
But was
It's
that
a big
about the
part of
biggest
it.
event that you guys have done so far? You keep like tearing it up or changing it up every year? Or how does that go for you guys?
As we have like with the glass artists, we have a returning list of ballers that
Mm-hmm.
never want to
Awesome.
miss the show. Right?
Yeah.
We have like 0 openings on that roster generally. It's so insane. And
That's
That's
I
awesome.
just want to I want to touch one thing about the artists and everyone who ever touches the project. We
Please.
couldn't do this without the entire community having our back on this, and it really fuels us to know that we can do this with such a great deal of respect for what we're doing and how we're doing it, and it's like a lot to put your rep on the line like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very 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 rewarding in a lot of different ways. And without the generosity of these artists coming in and like literally leaving us with tens of thousands of dollars of glass, like we couldn't be able to do this, uh, I am overwhelmed by our volunteers. I'm overwhelmed by the amount of financial support that people come and spend on the pieces. Like it is all very meaningful and it all does something. And I hope that everybody who leaves that place leaves recharged and refreshed and feels like their time spent was worth it.
Yeah, I was definitely sleep deprived personally after that weekend, but I heard so many of those similar words from other people. I think just like the overall energy with the format that you guys are running and the mission behind it, makes it so much different than any of the other glass events that I've attended personally. So you guys are doing a great job with that.
It's just super special when you can get so many artists together in one room and one
Truly.
place, and you said it just now. You got guys that would love to get a torch spot, but the torch spots are so limited because the same guys are just crushing every year. And it's tough. It's a tough position for you guys to be in too because you want to open it up to even more people, but at the same time, it's like you got to give to those people that are giving back. So we understand it puts you in a really tough place.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough even during the torches gets us in a pickle sometimes with people. Like there's artists who've applied like 5-6 years and never got a torch spot and they're pretty sore about it, and I'd like to apologize for not having enough torches for them because I feel like we're letting people down when that happens. But the truth of the situation is it costs like $55 an hour to run each of those torches,
I
right?
bet.
So if you're not out there to hit home runs, get on the bench.
Right. I love
Simply
it.
said, yeah.
Hey, you gotta be
That's the
generating.
hard truth,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good. But again, I
And
mean, go ahead.
there's ways to give too, right? You can show
Yeah.
up with a finished piece and donate to the silent auction, and I think it has the same amount of impact on our mission. I really feel that like that is another large part of what really helps us out is people bringing finished work to donate that ends up on the silent auction table. Not everything at the project is made there, and that really is the boost. But
Yeah, I've
Me-
never seen pandemonium like that in the silent auction that lasts like 10, 20 minutes. That auction is like people are just swarming.
Yeah,
You
it's nuts.
can't get a pencil, you can't get your elbow in.
I
It's crazy.
I
hectic.
haven't been yet. As someone that hasn't been, what are all the buying options for someone? They can do the silent auctions. Does some of the work go to Instagram? How does it all work for someone that
There's
wants to support and acquire some of the work?
Yeah, I'll let these guys cover it. They're best at it. But yeah, there's a couple different ways.
yeah, there's a whole day's worth of work on Sunday that's still in the kiln after the auctions, right? Like, and that's generally a beefy part because they've been
Mhm.
working on these things for 2-3 days beforehand before they even hit the kiln on Sunday. We bring them out Monday. Um, Instagram, we do Instagram auctions. Our website is really amazing. Bang Lee, he crushes it. He's our marketing director. We have pieces available at the MichiganGlassProject.com, and all the information for the event can be found there. You can, if you see something on Instagram, hit us up. We do Instagram auctions infrequently now because of scammers. If you see a picture of a piece that you like, hit us up. We still might have it, right? And we have the Great Fall Gathering, which is we did the first year of, but it was like a post project glow, maybe in the fall.
Thought that was awesome.
We showed the movie, which we haven't even really talked about either. We showed the movie, and we had another silent auction, and we raised a ton of money, and it was a great way for us to showcase all those pieces that happened on Sunday. Am I missing any ways to pick up pieces, Chris?
I think that about covers it. I mean, other than we usually do a raffle, but that's not usually like the big the big stuff. It's a lot of other small stuff. But yeah, I mean, mainly it's the silent auctions in the event, any sort of events, and then just direct through Instagram or the website. We've got like a lot of that work up there.
And you guys had Shelbo emceeing a little live auction too on some of those
He
bigger
crushes
pieces.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shelbo crushes it, man.
Yeah, the live auction.
Give that man a mic.
And honestly, most of the prices, from my perspective, I was like, man, people are getting steals here, even still.
does
Like, it's
happen.
great to hear that you're raising all that money. But it sounds great for both sides from my perspective. It was just good all around.
So, Drew, you touched on a movie really quick and said we hadn't talked about it yet. Why don't you give us some background on the MGP movie?
Yeah.
So from the beginning, we were very focused on getting video footage, right? We always had great videographers, great photographers. Red Shamrock, Chris Van Vleck came out early. And then, like, early on, we met with Corbin Leparle, who did a lot of shooting for us. So we had this immense pile of B-roll, like, I mean, days and days of footage. So Dan Collins approached us, and
He's
asked us if we
fantastic.
yeah, he's so good.
He's
doing the
so
false
damn
finger
good at
thing
what he
right now.
does. Yeah, yeah. And he did one for Slinger, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did
Yep,
Slinger.
that's
And
degenerate art that I had mentioned earlier.
Dan and Corbin worked together on this documentary, which describes kind of our journey and our voyage as a crew to like what we're doing and how we do it. It's very visually stunning. Lots of flame, lots of headies, lots of good times captured. You know, and it's very reminiscent, and it makes me cry every time. It's very moving.
I love it. Where can people watch? Where can people find and watch the movie?
We're going to be showing it on March 14th at the Flint Institute of Arts. I'll be doing demos with Chris and Adam Thomas and our buddy Talon Glass. The Flint Institute of Arts is an amazing glass resource for anybody in Michigan. They have a huge studio like Corning, and then a huge collection of glass as well. And then I'm trying to work it out with Midwest Meltdown. Maybe go out there in St. Louis and show it.
It's gonna be a really fun event. That Midwest Meltdown.
Yeah,
Shout out to Kigo Gut. He is he's putting on something special out there. He's been in my ear on that one for some time now. So that's gonna be a really special event. I think it's in the middle of May. For those of you guys looking for a really cool glass event in St. Louis. That's a place that I personally haven't been yet for any glass, period. Kigo Gut has been really putting in the work to build out something special there. So shout out to him and shout out to that event. That's gonna be a cool one.
Yeah, but that sounds great. I wanted to make it up to Flint as well after that trip. I was just so blown out after the long weekend at MGP that I didn't make it up. But maybe this year I'll get up there to see that. I heard it's pretty awesome facility, comparable to like Corning.
It's a mini Corning, and their programming there is always amazing. They did a pipe show. They did a pipe show last year during the project, which probably had, I don't know, 27, 28 pieces. And it was a really nice representation of contemporary art. They covered the bases.
That's awesome. I'm happy to see some of those glass museums, glass facilities getting more and more into the Boro side of things. You know, I feel like the work that you guys are able to pull off with Boro glass has been underappreciated and is finally getting up to the level of appreciation that I'd like to see it at. So that's super cool.
Yeah,
and people are starting to reference pieces as museum pieces now. You know, this is a museum piece. This piece belongs in a museum. Like it's starting to get that conversation going. And I think that, you know, it's been going for a couple of years, but we're starting to hear it more and more. And guys are really pushing it to the max. And we can see guys going for pieces. For example, I think that Rye Kurt B that was launched more recently, is that thing goes right into Corning right away. I mean, that thing is just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the cameo engraving that they have on display there. I think I might have even gone through Corning with Ryan at one point, and he was like pointing out different work, and he's like, yeah,
I can do this.
I could do that.
Because he can.
Yeah,
Like,
not
that
as
is fucking-
boastfully, but yeah,
No, he is
more
like
just
humble
like
guy.
in terms
But
of
it's like
technique and
his work should be there.
but it should, yeah.
Yeah, and
There's
it
a
will
few
be
guys
there.
I could
We're
name.
gonna put it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, got a couple of his pipes. No, that's awesome. So this year MGP is June 21 to 24, correct?
23rd.
21st
We
to
went
the
back and
23rd of June.
forth on that. But
Yeah.
it's the 23rd.
21st to 23rd, yeah.
Okay. I got my dates wrong. It's all
Well,
good.
maybe we'll stay around till the 24th.
Yeah, the party keeps going.
We're gonna
Yeah.
drive up.
Yeah,
I think.
close enough.
If you're there, just stay
We'll
till
be
the
there.
24th.
Those are your dates.
Yeah. Maybe we throw a party on the 24th.
And where is the facility that you guys have it at? Is that the Russell Industrial Center, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the
And that used to be
exhibition
like an
hall at
old
Russell Industrial
Ford
Center.
motor factory or something.
It was an old electric train car assembly plant. And then later in its life, it was turned into pressing and stamping, where they
Okay.
made airplane wings for the World War II. It was built like 1911, I think. So into the 40s, got transitioned, and then it turned into die stamping and printing.
That's
And
it.
then, boom, abandoned. Leona Helmsley owned it for a little while. But it's an Albert Kahn building, and he was really a revolutionary factory designer for Ford. He built a
Damn,
lot of
that's
stuff in
awesome.
the
So it's
Midwest.
legit.
It was fun to get lost in there. The complex is like massive. It's like something out of like a Mad Max like esque dystopian backdrop for the whole scene is sweet. Fits in with the degenerative art very well, I think.
They say if it's not broke, don't fix it. But you know, if you guys are gonna make any improvements or changes to MGP in years to come, you know, where could you see it going?
Yeah, what are you looking forward to?
Oh wow! It would be nice to have a property of our own that was inexpensive that we could rent to other nonprofits. If we were to have like a fairgrounds and an outbuilding or a Quonset hut we could use for the event, that would be great. But some other things I like to see is like the two-dimensional art side really grow and take over and be as bountiful as the glass is for us. I think that is really our future. The glass scene is like at the center of the event, but I think where we can expand is getting into the rest of art, like getting Ron English to come out and paint, like getting all these really top dogs to come and leave work with us to auction off.
Yeah. I think it also kind of brings in like a whole nother side of the audience or a whole nother audience entirely. And the more that you can kind of mix those crowds where they correlate well is like a no-brainer in my mind. Just the more visibility, the better,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it brings value. When you have a wider audience, you have more room to play with. You have more people to play to.
Mm-hmm.
What's something that you guys would want to share to someone who's just starting out on the torch that might want to attend MGP this year? Is there any other kind of lessons for them or any other things that they can do to maybe get ready before going to MGP or any prerequisites for going?
What do you think, Chris?
Get ready to
Bring your
turn up.
glasses.
Yeah, bring your glasses, dude. My eyes were
Yeah.
fucked up by the end of that week. I just kept
Yeah.
like looking right into the.
I'd say
know-
don't be afraid to approach artists and talk to them about whatever.
That's-
People are pretty open and really nice, and in that environment, it's nothing but love. So it's really easy to approach people. But don't sometimes these kids get starstruck or whatever, and I understand it, but like, man, everybody's cool as hell.
Yeah,
I
everyone
think
is
that's the
super
biggest lesson.
approachable
That's
and down to earth.
that's the best feedback. Yeah, for sure.
And last year, even Bob was a surprise guest walking the floor. So it's always, you never know who you're gonna see there. I think that's what's the most special part. Whether there's still a lineup of artists, but you can still get those surprises walking around the floor. So it's really nice.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a kind scene, man. Hey, could I do that giveaway right now or that stash and dash?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we got a special stash and dash
Yeah, we
coming
got
up
some
for
intel
those of you guys that wanted to come in and dial in and tune in with us here.
when this video drops / if it's
So
still
there's-
there.
We love it.
What's the
There's this
details?
place called the Heidelberg Project, and it's run by Tyree Guyton, and he's a local artist who wanted to point out blight. So he took all of this trash and assembled it in like a 4-block radius and would staple it to houses. Like there'd be like the dollhouse and the record house. And then he just would do these big installations with like lots of painted clocks and televisions and weird shopping carts.
So sick.
Yeah, look it up. Heidelberg Project. It's amazing. And amidst all this chaos is a doghouse. So Art Road, their mascot is the Art Road dog. This is my absolute favorite place in the city. The dog's name is Congo, and he's long since melted. He was made of paper mache. I might actually make a Congo and
Just put him in there.
Put him in there.
Yeah, that'd be clever.
Or something. But but there's this big ass doghouse, and I'm gonna hide it inside the doghouse, like probably like up in the one of the rafters on above the door. It'll be in a white bag.
Wow, there you go. You heard it here.
Find the prize.
Top of the doghouse, white bag.
I'm gonna drive out
Big
there.
Big brain activities, baby. You gotta be on it. That's awesome. And it'll be
this is pre-recorded.
This is pre-recorded.
I got the jump on it. I got to jump on all y'all.
Man, this was awesome. We really appreciate you guys getting on here. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you guys want to tell the audience? You know, glass blowers, collectors, the community, anyone listening?
Yeah, anything you've taken away from your past years traveling around to events and in this scene, you know, any advice?
Man, it's all love. You know, it's all love. If you're an artist, you're doing it for generally the right reasons. You know, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of weirdos out there, but like that's only like 1%. And in this glass community, I've really found a lot of friendship and brotherhood and trust, and it's really something special. You know, and see it for what it is.
How about you, Chris?
Man, my advice for anybody looking to do the thing in the glass scene is just stick with it. It's a hard game to do. The glass is not a forgiving medium. It can be extremely discouraging, and you just got to stick with it, roll the punches, and just keep trucking on. Like that's the only way to do it in this scene. And yeah, everything Drew said too. Like it's tough but rewarding.
Man,
I agree.
Well, this was our first time having two guys at once. We really appreciate you guys both coming on here. We really wanted to have both you guys at the same time. Thought it was special. Your impacts on MGP and being able to speak on behalf of the greater good of MGP and, you know, everything that goes on with the project. So again, this was a really special episode for us. We thank you guys. We love what you're doing. We support it wholeheartedly and on all of our platforms and as in person as we can. So thank you guys.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys both, you know, up there in Michigan again this year.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, I'll talk to you in the Discord, buddies.
Yeah, see you in the Discord for some dabs, baby. Love it. Boom. Thank you, guys.